The first light over Cheshire, Connecticut, slipped across Sorghum Mill Drive like any other summer morning, catching the quiet homes and casting long shadows across the calm, tree-lined street. Nothing in the neighborhood suggested danger, but inside the Petit family's home, the nightmare had already begun. In the basement, 49-year-old Dr. William Petit lay tied and bleeding on the concrete floor. His head throbbed from blows delivered by a baseball bat while he slept on the family room couch. Every attempt to move sent pain through his ribs and legs. He could hear faint footsteps above him, along with low voices he didn't recognize. His wife, Jennifer, and their daughters, 17-year-old Haley and 11-year-old Michaela, were somewhere upstairs. He couldn't reach them. He couldn't warn them. The men inside the house were Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarjevsky, two recently released offenders who had met at a halfway house. They had been prowling the suburbs at night, looking for homes that signaled money and low risk. Days earlier, at a local grocery store, they noticed Jennifer and Michaela shopping together. Komisarjevsky later admitted he followed them to see where they lived. On the night of July 22, 2007, they returned. They parked a short distance away, walked up the street under cover of darkness, and slipped around to the back of the Petit home. Komisarjevsky cut through a screen door and entered through an unlocked section, something he had done in dozens of previous burglaries. His flashlight traced the edges of furniture and framed photos as he moved silently through the rooms. When he reached the family room and saw William Petit sleeping on the couch, he made a decision that changed everything. Instead of backing out, he struck Petit repeatedly with a bat until the doctor collapsed and could no longer resist. Hayes helped drag him to the basement, bound him, and left him on the floor. Upstairs, Jennifer and her daughters were jolted awake by flashlights and threats. The intruders tied them to their beds and searched the house for valuables. They found some small items, but it wasn't enough. Hayes and Komisarjevsky decided Jennifer would go to the bank first thing in the morning to withdraw a large amount of cash. If she warned anyone, they said, her daughters would pay the price. Through the early morning hours, the three captives remained tied in their rooms, hoping cooperation would convince the men to leave once they had the money. Shortly after 9 a.m., Hayes forced Jennifer to drive him to the bank. Surveillance cameras captured her walking inside with a strained expression. She told a teller in a controlled voice that her family was being held hostage and that she needed to withdraw $15,000. The teller and bank manager approved the withdrawal, handed her the money, and called 911 the moment she stepped away from the window. Police units began moving toward Sorghum Mill Drive, treating it as a hostage situation. They staged quietly near the home, watching from a distance, unaware that the danger inside was about to escalate. When Hayes and Jennifer returned to the house, Komisarjevsky assaulted her. She was later strangled on the first floor. Upstairs, Haley and Michaela remained tied in their rooms. Komisarjevsky assaulted Michaela while her sister was forced to listen from across the hall. The brutality inside the house was not spontaneous or chaotic. It was deliberate and extended. In the basement, William Petit could hear muffled movement, but didn't know what had happened to his family. Hayes and Komisarjevsky then drove to a nearby gas station, used the Petit's credit card, and bought multiple gallons of gasoline. Security cameras showed them calmly selecting the containers and paying for them. When they returned home, they splashed gasoline throughout the first floor and up the back stairway, spreading it near the bedrooms where the girls were still tied to their beds. In the basement, Dr. Petit smelled the fumes. His head still throbbed from the earlier attack, but he understood the meaning of the smell. If he didn't move, he would die there. With his wrists still partially bound, he rolled, crawled, and dragged himself toward a bulkhead door. He slammed his shoulder into it until it forced open. He crawled into the yard, stumbled across the lawn, and reached a neighbor's property. Barefoot, bleeding, and weak, he shouted for help. The neighbor called 911. At almost the same moment, Hayes and Komisarjevsky lit the gasoline. Flames rushed through the first floor, fed by open air and accelerant. The fire moved upward with horrifying speed, blocking the stairway and filling the bedrooms with smoke. Firefighters later reported that Haley and Michaela were found still tied to their beds, overcome by smoke, before they could escape. Neither had reached the door. While the house burned, Hayes and Komisarjevsky fled in the Petit's Chrysler Pacifica. They didn't get far. Police units already circling the area spotted the vehicle and moved to intercept. The SUV slammed into a cruiser, ending the pursuit. Officers pulled both men from the vehicle and arrested them on the spot. Behind them, flames poured from the windows of the Petit home. In the investigation that followed, detectives pieced together a timeline using surveillance footage, credit card records, physical evidence, and the attacker's own statements. Both men blamed each other, but the forensic details and witness accounts showed that they had made repeated choices to escalate, from burglary to home invasion, from restraint to assault, and finally to homicide and arson. The brutality was not a split-second panic, it was sustained and intentional. Trials were held separately. In 2010, Stephen Hayes was convicted of murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, and arson. A jury sentenced him to death. The following year, Joshua Komisarjevsky was convicted on similar charges and received the same sentence. Later, when Connecticut abolished the death penalty, both sentences were converted to life imprisonment without the possibility of release. The case reshaped state policy around parole, supervised release, and emergency response to hostage situations. For many residents, Cheshire changed forever. For Dr. William Petit, the lone survivor, the loss of Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela carved a wound that would never fully heal. The Petit Family Foundation, created in their memory, now supports education, victims of violence, and medical causes close to their lives. The Petit home invasion remains one of the most devastating modern crimes in American history, a targeted burglary that turned into hours of terror, ending with a burning house on a quiet suburban street and a survivor who escaped only to learn the full weight of what he'd lost. Thank you for listening to Homicide Files. Subscribe for more true crime stories.